Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wilson Community College. I do want to take just a minute to say that our agenda is going to alter just a slight bit. Ms. Marina Kelly, our keynote speaker, who I'm going to tell you a little bit more about in just a second, in the critically important role she's in, has been called back to Raleigh a little bit sooner than she had expected. But for the students in the audience, that's the nature of the kind of work you're getting into, high demand and highly responsible positions where sometimes you just have to drop and go. But in the interest of time, we're going to shift some things up, and Dr. Hicks is going to speak a little later in the program, and I'll do the introduction for Ms. Kelly. But back to the welcome. We're so glad you're here today for CyberSafe in the Gig City Mind of the Machine. Is Wilson ready for AI? This event is timely given that October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we're excited to bring together students, professionals, and community members to talk about something that affects us all: how we stay safe and smart in a world that's increasingly powered by artificial intelligence. This event also gives us an opportunity to highlight our IT and engineering programs, so please visit our faculty set up along the back of the room if you're looking for short-term or degree opportunities in those areas. They're always glad to get you information about current course offerings and to talk to you about possibilities for future offerings that we should be considering. Wilson is proud to be a gigabit city, and with that comes incredible opportunity and responsibility. Today's conversations will help us think about how we can embrace innovation while protecting our data, our privacy, and our people. We're thrilled to have Marina Kelly, Chief Information Security Officer for the City of Raleigh, as our keynote speaker. I've had the pleasure of talking with Marina previously about today's subject, and her depth and breadth of knowledge in this area really wowed us, and so did her humility and her willingness to support this event. We've also got a fantastic panel lined up to explore how AI is changing everything from broadband to banking to education. A big thank you to our sponsors, Greenlight, Computer Central, and North State Consulting, and to all the folks behind the scenes who made today possible. Before we dive in, just a quick heads up, we'll be giving out door prizes at the end of the event, and you must be present to win, so please stick around if you can. You don't want to miss it, and I thank you for being here. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to say a little bit more about Ms. Kelly and her background. As I shared, she is the Chief Information Security Officer for the City of Raleigh, where she leads cybersecurity strategy and risk management to safeguard the city's digital assets. A former educator turned technologist, she holds a master's degree in computer science from UNCG and has worked in IT leadership at NC State University. Her guiding motto, learned from her father, is leave people, places, and things better than you found them. Please help me extend a warm welcome to Ms. Kelly.
Okay, let's see if the technologists can make technology work. Here we go. Okay, thank you. Welcome, everyone. I am so honored to be here today. When Susan reached out to me and asked if I would be interested in being involved, I asked my boss, who's the CIO of the City of Raleigh, I was like, what do you think? And he's like, of course. The City of Raleigh, as you guys know, it's the 39th largest city in the country. I was about to say the state. And there is so much that we do. Local government, if you are really interested in a career where you get to do so many different things and you never step in the same river twice, work in local government, because you never know. So this afternoon, I have to go meet with the 911 center about a security issue. You just never know what you're going to get to do every day. But I'm so honored to be here. Thank you all so much. Those of you who are online, welcome as well. What I want to talk to you about today is cybersecurity in the gigabit city. So our world is just inundated with information about artificial intelligence. And some of it is correct, some of it's not, and some of it's people taking advantage of other people's fear. So what I want to do today is talk to you about artificial intelligence and the opportunities it brings, while also acknowledging there are concerns and things we have to be concerned about that we need to address as we look at the growing reach of artificial intelligence. So I want to ask a question to start. When you hear the term artificial intelligence, what is it that you think of? What comes to mind immediately? College. I'm sorry? Robots. The killer robots or just regular robots? The regular robots. Okay, good. What else do you think of? Quantum computing. That's my other favorite topic. Maybe I'll come back next year and talk about quantum computing. What else? HAL 9000. 2001: A Space Odyssey. That was most people's first introduction to the idea of artificial intelligence, was that movie, which is part of the reason why we have so much fear around it, I think. What else do you think of? ChatGPT. You will see today the images that are in my presentation. I actually use ChatGPT. If you are like me and a really horrible arts and crafts person, funny story, went to church camp when I was 12, and you know how during that week you do different rotations every day. So you'd have a sports rotation, and you'd have a hiking rotation, there was an arts and crafts rotation, and I did my arts and crafts rotation the first day. We were making macrame keychains. By the end of that half an hour, I was in tears, and the counselors were in tears, because I couldn't do it. Like, I just could not figure it out, and it was just such a mess. So I didn't have to do arts and crafts the rest of the week because I was so bad at it. But I'm a horrible artist. And so being able to use something like a GPT, there we go, to be able to help me be more productive and to be more engaging in my presentations has been very helpful for me. So we'll talk again more about how there's a lot of opportunity here when we talk about artificial intelligence. Okay. So we talk about artificial intelligence. It is, in the history of information technology, a paradigm shift. It impacted so much so quickly. And I love this quote. Artificial intelligence is the new electricity. It has the potential to transform every industry and create unprecedented opportunities. But you have to be willing to step up and take those chances and get started. And that's what we'll talk about today. I find, because I was a former educator, and I'm a technologist, but I will always be an educator. I will always have that frame of reference in whatever I do. I want to do a quick tour of how we got here and where are we going when it comes to artificial intelligence, because I think it's really important to understand this to be able to get over the fear. We don't want to be afraid of this. We want to be aware of it and be able to engage with it. So I was a history major in my undergraduate days, so let's talk about how we got here. The first thing we talk about with artificial intelligence is what are known as reactive machines. So this work actually started in the 1950s with IBM, and this attempt to figure out how do I have a machine that learns and then can predict. And the first thing most people ever saw of this was IBM's Deep Blue. So this is what powers Watson. So many of you may remember Watson has played chess, it won Jeopardy, but it wasn't creating anything new. It was simply taking in information and then predicting, figuring out what it knew and giving an answer. And this is, again, the first thing we really saw in this was Watson and Deep Blue. So that's our past. Where are we now? Where we are now are two big areas of AI. The first is what is known as limited memory AI. And you see this in things like self-driving cars, supply chain management software, facial recognition software. And so what it's doing is it's taking in information and it's predicting and acting. So that was the next step, was it predicts and can act. And so we see this every day. How many of you have a car with self-driving mode? How many of you trust it? Right? That's the other thing. Do you trust it? And then the thing that really hit hard was generative AI in the last couple of years. And that's what in the industry is known as narrow AI. And what it's able to do is even more powerful, predicting and acting autonomously in some spaces. So this is the ability for it to take an image and recognize what it is and match it to the exact location on a map. Like, here's a picture of a building. Tell me where that is in the world. Email spam filters. So those of us who live in our email, and we have that ability now for things not to get into my inbox that shouldn't be in my inbox for whatever reason that might be, that is narrow AI, as well as customer service chatbots. Whether or not a customer service chatbot is a good thing or a bad thing is still up for debate in many spaces, because it doesn't always get things right. And what we found when we first start to put these into production is you ask it a question, and it'll answer it, and then you'll ask it another question, and you start to want to have a conversation with it, and it can only go so far. And then immediately it's, oh, I have to hand you off to a human being. So it's still not quite there, right? And then recommendation algorithms. If you log into your Netflix account and it says, based on what you've watched, we would predict you would like to see these things. Or targeted ads on websites based on what your search history has been. These types of algorithms are narrow AI. That's where we are now. And for those of us who are a little more wise and older in our years, this is incredible. Like, this didn't exist at all. And it seems like magic in some ways. But it is the result of decades of research and work to get to this point. So this is where we are. So what are the possibilities as we move forward? Well, the next big step in AI will be what's known as general AI. And this is where artificial intelligence is able to match us as human beings. Right? So your self-driving car doesn't always know the right thing to do. And because it's not matched us in intelligence. It may be able to know facts, but being able to take facts and apply it and do something with it, intelligence, it can't fully do yet. That's the next step. And when people talk about the future of AI, this is what they're talking about, is where it matches or surpasses human intelligence. After we hit that bar, the next one will be theory of mind AI. And this is where it not only has knowledge and facts, but it understands our emotions, it understands beliefs and intuitions. So it's becoming more human. The whole purpose of AI is to get as close to being a human as possible. And then we have artificial general intelligence. I know there's a lot of terms here. It has a consciousness now, and a sense of its own self, its own existence. Again, another step towards being more human. And then finally, super intelligent AI. And this is the HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. This is Skynet from the Terminator movies. That is science fiction. That is not where we are. All these up here, most of these are decades away. So when you start to see the fear, that's a bit of fear-mongering that we see in the media, it's pointing at these types of things. Not there yet. And the important thing to remember is that we control this. Machines are not taking over anytime soon. and we determine the path we take. So there are, as you can see, a lot of discussions we need to have philosophically as a human race about whether or not this is good. Is this really where we need to be? You can be a part of that discussion, and you can help shape that discussion. But to be able to do so, you have to be engaged with this. So, we've got AI and the continuing evolution of AI, and we have Wilson, a gigabit city. Two things coming together that bring an amazing amount of promise here. So it isn't, again, it's not the robot uprising. But what we can have at this juncture, in this very cool, unique situation that we have in Wilson, is, Marina putting her slides in the right place, there we go, is the idea of automation, which productivity is what narrow AI does really well, helping to increase productivity. Not replace humans. We had a study that came out just yesterday that in the United States, this fear of AI taking over everybody's jobs is not happening. What is happening is we're absorbing these abilities from things like ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, etc., to make people more efficient to free up their time. So to take redundant tasks off of people's plates so they can do the things that humans can only do at this point. So we have this idea of automation and this opportunity to learn new jobs and skills. And AI is across everything. So lots of opportunity here, and I'm so excited we're having this discussion at Wilson Community College because, again, as a former educator, we're going to talk more about where education plays into this. It's a crucial part of this equation. So what can artificial intelligence and a gigabit city bring? So talk to the staff here as we were preparing for this presentation and was like, okay, well, I know some things about Wilson. You have an amazing whirligig park, and I know that you're getting a new baseball park, and I know you're an hour east of us, but what is it Wilson does well? What is the basis of Wilson? Its culture, its economy. And they shared with me some pieces about Wilson, and I was like so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much opportunity here for AI. So much opportunity here. So, you guys have a strong manufacturing base. When we talk about narrow AI, generative AI, this is one of those areas we are really seeing this come to fruition and mature. And that's just things like predictive maintenance of machines. So being able to know that that line in my manufacturing plant is due for maintenance, and if I don't do it within a certain amount of time, I know that I'm going to have problems. And so these sensors that you can put on machines now will help you monitor the controls and the pieces and parts and widgets that make up the machine to tell you when it's getting ready to fail. So therefore, you can do that maintenance sooner and avoid your line having to go offline. Save you time, save you money. Quality control. Quality control throughout the Industrial Revolution has been a very manual, human-based process. Some things can have quality control components to it, but usually at some point in that process, there's a human being. What this allows us to do with using things like narrow AI is to get more granular in that quality control. So I don't need a human's eyes on it as much. It can see that small piece or problem and take that out of your line. And inventory management. Amazon is the king of this. Right? So this is what allows them. If you guys have ever seen video of an Amazon warehouse, the type A personality in me is just cringes. Like, how do you not have this proper everything in alphabetical order or by groupings of industry and things like that? That's not how they do it. They have these predictive models that allow them to do inventory management that tell them where to put these things on what shelf. And so they can rapidly pull and fill orders. So manufacturing, again, is an area where we're seeing a great use of generative AI for its purposes of increasing productivity. Another area we're seeing it happen is banking. So banking's an interesting situation when it comes to AI. And the same is true for the legal profession, by the way. These are highly regulated spaces. And when I mean highly regulated, they have so many things they have to do to meet legal requirements, especially from both state and federal governments. And so banking has dipped their toe into AI because there are some things you can't do with AI yet. You don't put sensitive information into AI. Don't do it because it trains models. And you don't want your sensitive information in these models without your knowledge. But what they have been able to find is that it can be used for some very specific areas. The first is fraud detection. How many of you have gotten the text or the email from your bank saying there's been suspicious activity on your card? Please confirm that you did this. That's AI. Used to be human beings would have to do that look, and so it could be 5 to 7 days after something happens before you got a notification. What's happened with banking is because they've been able to automate this with AI and train these models on what they know are indicators of fraud, they've been able to expedite this process. So I know I had to pay a bunch of money this weekend to pay for it. We had to put new carpet in our house. Paid for it with my credit card. Within 4 seconds, I got a notification from my credit card company. Did you do this? Well, yes, I did. So this has been a game changer in banking. And it's even more important because AI can also be used for nefarious things like cyber crimes. So now what we had now is AI fighting AI is what we're doing. We're just sitting back and watching with the popcorn. And then customer support agents. So this, again, is an area where banking really stepped up very early, and that is the use of the ability to go on your banking website, log into your account, and then quickly find access to the information you need. So we're seeing that in banking. And there's more to come in banking, but again, there's such a highly regulated area, they have to move with some caution. Agriculture. I'm from Newton, North Carolina. If you couldn't tell by the accent, I am from this state. And Catawba County, where I'm from, it's huge agricultural, textiles, furniture. Those were the big things growing up. And so I am fascinated by agriculture. And the possibilities in this space are incredible. So agriculture is something that has been throughout history. You know, I saw a sign on my way here today. If you ate today, thank a farmer. Exactly. So what you all can do in agricultural spaces with AI, again, helps to expedite what have often been very laborious processes. So things like monitoring crop yield and health, putting those sensors out into the field. And the great thing about AI sensors, unlike in some areas of technology we've seen in the past where I would put a sensor on something and it's only controlling temperature. And I'd have to have another sensor for another aspect that I want to monitor. These AI sensors can do it all. It's just one sensor. And so it can get information on crop yield. It can predict to incredible accuracy how much a field is going to produce for yield. And check the health of your crops. Monitoring your soil health. Again, oftentimes you'd have to go out in the field, you got to take your soil sample, you got to take it back in, you got to run it, get the information you need, and then react. With AI, it can do the monitoring and tell you what you need to do. And then if you want to take it a step further, it can sometimes, in some spaces, do it for you. And then pest and disease control. So being able to, again, using these same sensors, watch for infestations of pests and be able to respond rapidly can save crops, save money. So agriculture, another area. If any of you ever get a chance to tour at NC State University's College of Agriculture, it's fascinating the work they're doing in that space. I get to drive by their farm every day on my way back and forth to work, and I just love watching. I can see the sensors they now have on their livestock, so they're using it to track their livestock and the livestock's health. So agriculture, such an old industry with so much possibilities here when it comes to this space. And government. So we have started to roll out in the city of Raleigh some initial AI chatbots for citizens to help them. If you've ever tried to put a deck on your house and tried to maneuver through all of the paperwork and the permits that it takes to do something as simple as, I just want to put a deck on my house, these types of chatbots will help to expedite that process because they can, you tell them your address, they can tell where you are, what part of the city, are there any historical restrictions, what kind of materials are you wanting to use, are those materials allowed, what kind of permits do you need? All of that can be brought right back to you immediately, so you don't have to go searching through our website to find it. And so we see a lot of this use in local governments because we're here to serve our citizens, and we will make sure they get the right information as quickly as possible. And then smart city infrastructure. City of Raleigh is a smart city. We have sensors all over our city, cameras. Our traffic lights have sensors on them. We monitor our traffic through these. We are able to reroute traffic. It's going to come in quite handy in a couple of weeks when the state fair starts. I'm always like, don't go in that part of the city when we have the state fair. You can't get around anywhere. Last year, there was one day where they had an NC State football game, a Sabrina Carpenter concert, and the state fair on the same day. And I was like, I would assume we'd still be trying to get the traffic out of there. But the sensors they use to be able to route those traffic patterns out of those different facilities meant that you were able to get out faster than you probably thought you could. So smart city infrastructure is really important in local government spaces. We have things like smart trash cans now in the city of Raleigh, where you put your waste into the trash can, and it determines immediately if it's garbage or recycling, and then pops it into the right bin. That was fun doing that security review. That one, yeah, I always get the fun things of like the really innovative stuff. And I'm just like, I don't even know how to assess this right now. I didn't know this existed. So lots of possibilities here. Encourage you guys, if you ever want to learn more about that, let me know. John Holden, who's our smart city manager in the city of Raleigh, loves to give tours and talk about the different pieces we have in place for the city. And then finally, healthcare diagnostics. And this also has some ethical issues around it. But what we're finding with generative AI is that it actually does a better job of certain types of diagnostics in healthcare. It does a better job, for example, in finding breast cancer in radiographs that the human eye would miss. So there's a lot of promise here. But again, just like with banking, very regulated space when it comes to things like HIPAA. So the city of Raleigh has an amazing new program. What we saw in the last decade is an increasing number of cancer cases in our firefighters. It's a huge problem. And so at one of our fire stations, Fire Station 14, they have created a room in which firefighters can come and get full body scans and get an initial assessment done to let them know if there's anything, there's cause for concern. Because of the increasing number of chemicals that first responders are being exposed to when they respond to events, this is a serious issue. And so this is the first of its kind in the country. And I will tell you right now, it's an incredible use of AI, and it is a security nightmare. Because those images have to be transitioned to UNC Chapel Hill for final review out of a fire station. It's HIPAA data. It's controlled data. So how we do that transition has to be very controlled. So lots of incredible possibilities when it comes to healthcare as well. So many possibilities here. And we control that future. But we also do have to acknowledge there are concerns with it. So, I'm not going to fearmonger. I just want to lightly touch on a few of these things you need to keep in mind that we're going to be having to discuss as a society as we move more and more into the AI revolution. So the first of those is fear of the unknown. Again, it's this idea that somehow the robots are going to take over and we're going to lose control and everything bad is going to happen. We have to acknowledge that is a typical human reaction to change. It is. Those of you who are younger in the crowd, you've lived with this all of your life. You are what we know as digital natives. This is not surprising to you. But put this in the context of someone who's 70 years old. This technology did not exist when they were your age. And we watch too much science fiction sometimes, and we get this idea of what's going to happen. So we need to be honest about this and not mock people, but meet them where they are and help them understand what it really is and its possibilities. The second, cybersecurity risk. So many risks here around this. And the risks are increased because of the rapid escalation of the implementation of it. So we're still back here going, excuse me, I need to know where that data is going. And so we're a little behind. And so we have to play some catch up. The legal system has not kept up with this. So let me ask you this question. If I create what we call transformative intellectual property, or something from generative AI. I've written my series of prompts. I have a product that comes out of it. Who owns it? Was it me, because I wrote the prompts? Was it the owner of the model that generated it? Or was it the initial owner of the data that was used to train the model? So this crosses us over into this issue of trust and ethics. There is no clear legal path here. And if you look at the different court cases that have come down recently, there's been no consistency in the answer. So what are we going to do? The New York Times is suing OpenAI for using their archives to train their models. Companies like OpenAI are not transparent with what they did and how they got here. And it's a problem. We can't get them to answer basic questions about how they built and trained their models. And that has led to a very specific issue happening, and that is bias. If you don't vet what you're using to train your models, you get what you get. So if you allow a model to go through and train on a website of misinformation it's going to spit out misinformation. If you train your model on books from the early 1900s that talk about race, you are going to put out racist products. That is just a fact. So when we talk about the trust and ethics here, the key thing to remember here is, again, we're in control of this. Check your work. Check your sources. When you do a prompt in ChatGPT, for example, and it gives you back your response, click that little gray button that gives you the source, and check the source. The secret of AI is that it's really nothing new. It's the same issues we deal with in information technology from the beginning. And then sustainability. My new friend James and I were talking about the fact that if you're using ChatGPT as a web browser search, stop. That's not its purpose. And there's a huge environmental cost to the use of this. Your friends in Tarboro are in a legal battle over a data center being built for AI. They don't want it. They may be forced to have to take it. They understand the environmental impacts and the community impacts to having these data centers. We know that we are getting more and more reports of people who live near these data centers. They're on 24/7 and they are loud. They have impact. So we have to have honest conversations about this. Is that worth the risk? Or how do we better build these data centers? How do we better build the infrastructure for AI so that we are not consuming massive amounts of water or causing massive amounts of noise pollution? So, possibility, but challenges, and we need to have honest conversations about those challenges. So how do we move from being scared to prepared? So a few hints. Acknowledge this fear, be honest about it, and help people work through it. Have honest conversations. Relationships are important, even in a world of AI. Move to a state of awareness. So move from fear to awareness. It's here. It's not going anywhere. And as my boss, Mark Wittenberg, likes to say, AI is a train. You're either on it or getting run over by it. Those are your two options now. So if you want to be more engaged with AI, and you have to be more engaged with AI, let's talk about how we do that. There is an element of risk assessment and planning here. For example, the city of Raleigh, this innovative city that sits at the corner of Research Triangle Park, smart city. We still haven't rolled out Microsoft Copilot. We still don't have generative AI in the city because of our risk assessment and planning. It rolls out this month. It took us a year and a half of planning to do it because we had to deal with the issues that come with it, figuring out how to equitably distribute the licenses, how do we clean up our data, because again, garbage in, garbage out, right? We'll make sure if you're going to go search our website, please don't pull up the permit rules from 1967 and give people answers on that. Education is key. I encourage the Wilson community to lean into Wilson Community College. They can help. There are courses that they are designing and putting out. They can help you with planning. They can sit with you. They can talk to you. Let them help you. You are not in this alone. None of us are in this alone. But lean in and educate yourself. Learn more about things like how do you write good prompts? How do you write prompts that are secure so that you don't accidentally upload? You know, the nightmare of a CISO in generative AI is always going to be one of my people in HR uploads a spreadsheet with our personnel's social security numbers in it. Now I've lost control of 5,000 social security numbers. That is a data breach, by the way, by definition. And now I have to go deal with it, which means things like credit monitoring for those 5,000 employees and the reputational hit we would take as a city if we accidentally do this. So I am actually teaching a course this month in the city of Raleigh as we are rolling out Copilot. To get your Copilot license in the city of Raleigh, you have to take my class, Safe and Secure Use of Generative AI. And we talk about how you do this and the legal ramifications of AI and understanding public records requests and things like that. So education is a key. Please lean into those resources you have here in the community. And then finally, as you're doing this, make sure you're adopting best practices. This generative AI, it's about 3 years now since it really hit hard. There's lots of really great information out there, again, leaning into your educational resources to help you figure out how to do this and scale it. Do not jump in at the deep end of the pool. Just don't. Trust me, don't do it. Because this is what happened in New York City. They decided they were going to put out a customer service chatbot. And they built it, and they put it into production. And within the first 3 days, that chatbot was making stuff up. It hallucinated. It was telling people, it was telling restaurant owners, of course you can keep your employees' tips. That's in direct defiance of New York City law. Of course you can build this giant building right here. No, you can't. And so they took the deep end approach. And we're still watching it unfold, what's happening in New York City. I don't think it was the right approach. They lost a lot of goodwill with their citizens, and they have citizens now that don't trust it and won't use it. And you don't want to have that happen either. Okay. So, what are my calls to action? For our students in the room, learn all you can. Your career will always be impacted by AI. There's no avoiding it. No matter what career you go into, you are going to hit AI. So learn to use it and learn to make a friend of it and learn how to be productive with it. And you can still do fun, cool things with your friends on it, but for your career, learn this. And it will make you stand out. Because you're going to find more and more employers asking you, do you know anything about AI? You'd be surprised by how many companies still have not touched this yet. So, if you really want to make yourself stand out from the crowd, learn this and put it on your resume. Local industry, please lean into this. Start small, start controlled. Figure out that one thing in your industry or your business that is really manual intensive. Make sure it doesn't involve controlled information or sensitive information. And design a pilot. Dip your toes in. Work with your end users. See how they react. Tweak it as you go along. But get started sooner rather than later, because AI will be something that delineates businesses. And I mean real AI, not the marketing issues I have to deal with every vendor now telling us there's AI in their product. It's not. Most of the time, it's not real AI. It's just a buzzword. But being able to work with your vendors and partners, lean into them, lean into Wilson Community College, but get started. And then for our community members and local government, as we talked about earlier, there's so much promise here with how this can improve the citizen experience. We want engaged citizens. They are important to a democracy. They are important to a government functioning well at a local level. So using AI to help better engage your citizens, as well as to help your employees. If you work in local government, you know we are understaffed. If you work in education, you know we're understaffed too. But if you work in local government, we don't have enough people. Anybody want to take a guess how big the information security team at the city of Raleigh is? 3. 4 if you count me. That's it. So we are learning how to use AI to help us be better at what we do and help better protect the city. We're seeing this in our planning and development departments, our parks and recreation departments. They're all wanting to talk about how they can use AI to have a better experience. We're getting ready to launch a pilot in one of our parks that will be a generative AI avatar that will help guide citizens through the park and answer their questions. It's a pilot because what we want to be able to do is take that same technology and when our new Civic Tower opens in 2027, have that in our foyer so that when our citizens come in, they can quickly figure out where they need to be, because we're taking 5 buildings and collapsing everybody into one building. So being able to help people redirect and find their way is going to be really important. So lots of opportunity, but the key here is get started. So my final takeaway. The Gigabit City is ready for AI. But the important thing is that you actually can help shape it. Getting involved, start using it, start to help feed into these conversations of where do we go next. Be engaged. Having a Gigabit City and AI is an incredibly powerful opportunity that most communities do not have. So lean into it, take advantage of it, and help shape where we're going in the future. Thank you all so very much. If you're interested or want to get in touch with me, there is my information. You can find me on LinkedIn. But I'm happy to talk to you, engage with you about this. It's one of my passions. I love emerging technology. But thank you all so very much. And does anyone have any questions you'd like to ask or anything you want to bring to the table? Stunned silence.
Versus like online AIs that are going to a data center?
Yes, we're seeing in these controlled spaces, and we see this also in the city of Raleigh because we have critical infrastructure like water. For this to be used, it has to be offline. It's got to be within a data center. It has to be a very controlled environment, and it cannot be in any way connected to the internet. But that does bring its own challenges, right? Because then you have to be on a regular patch schedule for your models and things like that, and there's extra steps you have to do. But there is a design element to being able to use this in controlled spaces. But yes, exactly. It cannot be. Please don't connect it to the internet. Great question. We all get to watch Susan run.
Marina, if you would, do you mind showing them around the corner a little bit when you were talking to us before you agreed to do the speech about the next generation and the quant AI that you had alluded to? Are you willing to talk about that a little bit? Give them a peek into what's down the road?
Quantum computing. Raise your hand if you know what quantum computing is and can explain it in 3 sentences or less. 3 sentences or less. So quantum computing is the next big wave of paradigm shift that we're going to see hit information technology. According to what we're hearing from the federal government and Google, IBM, and those spaces where this is being worked on, probably in the 2030s. I'll remind you it's 2025 now. But what this brings is, in short, the ability to do faster computing. And what that will allow us to do, again, is a lot of promise there of being able to break some problems that we've not been able to solve in humans' time. So things like the cure for cancer. But here's the thing. What happens with quantum computing will be dependent on who gets to it first. So there's a race. There's a race between the good guys and the bad guys. The good guys are industry, so Google, NVIDIA, IBM, those types of people who, if they get to it first, if they'll be able to build what is known as a cryptographically relevant computing device, they will be able to help control how it's used. It'll be an industry, it will have marketing, and we'll get sick of hearing about that for a while, but it will be able to be directed to be used for good. If the nation-state actors get to it first, China, Russia, North Korea, we won't know it happened. So if IBM or Google gets to it first, oh, trust me, there will be huge marketing and huge news stories, and we'll hear all about it ad nauseum. The way we'll find out it happens if threat actors get it first is that you're going to wake up one morning, and it's going to be chaos. Things like Bitcoin will disappear. All of a sudden, our military secrets will be out. Things are going to start happening that you're just not expecting. That's how we'll figure it out. Take quantum computing and add AI into it. If you are a nefarious threat actor, so the running joke of my team, our team at information security team at the City of Raleigh is when quantum computing hits, we're all just going to retire on the same day because we don't want to deal with it. The ability to use quantum computing will be able to possibly create cyber attacks that are so large scale, it overwhelms our defenses. So this is where you see things like the entire power grid of the United States being shut down at the same time. This is a real threat that's coming. Again, so much promise, just like any new technology. But in the wrong hands, dangerous. So if you don't know about quantum computing, I suggest you kind of get up to speed on it. The actual engineering behind it and the computer science behind it is really boring unless you're a computer nerd like I am. But the impact it's going to have is going to be huge. So fingers crossed that the good guys get it first. But I also know if the good guys get it first, the bad guys probably aren't very far behind us, unfortunately. But that is the thing that is keeping me up at night right now, is how do we get ready for this? The federal government has published what are known as post-quantum cryptographics, because the first thing that breaks is cryptographic algorithms. So those things that are protecting your data now aren't going to be protected anymore. All that data that they've been scraping all these decades that's encrypted, they're just going to do a mass decryption of it because they'll have the ability to do so. It's a different world. We're have to, now it's, AES 256. It's the crown jewel of encryption. It's been around for decades. We will have to change cryptographic algorithms on a regular basis after quantum computing. So lots of things to go, lots of things. Wilson wants to get ahead of that one. Good luck, because there's really no way to get ahead of it, unfortunately. But just be aware of it. Again, I'm a huge advocate of don't be afraid of it, get to know it. Be aware of it, be in the conversation.
I have a question. Because AI requires so much electricity, when you talk about threats, what are the implications for the availability and the future cost of electricity just for
It's a great question. We're already starting to see the edges of that impact, where what happens if we need AI for something and it's a 110-degree day, right? Which gets precedence? Your data center or your people who need access to the electricity to run an air conditioner? We're also seeing a huge ethical debate about who pays for this, right? We're starting to see some glimmers of this cost being shifted onto the end consumer, not the companies who are doing it. So it has some really serious implications. Again, be in the conversation. When you get those letters from the state where your energy company has decided to raise your rates, read those things and see what they're planning to use that money for. Ask questions. But there is going to become a crisis at some point with this because we can't keep up. I mean, they're talking about opening 3 Mile Island again to generate power for data centers. Those of you who are too young to remember, 3 Mile Island is the site of the United States' only major nuclear disaster. So, yeah, lots to talk about there. Yes, ma'am. I'm coming to you. Oh, we're racing. Run!
Some of my folks already know this, but my dad was sent to 3 Mile Island in 1978. I was 6 years old when the reactor was going down. I've got a little T-shirt from that, so I'm glad you brought that up, that him talking to me. I have a cousin that's very, very quantum physics smart. I mean, when he talks to me, I do not understand half of what he's saying. But he came and he met with us, and we were talking about the effects of AI and what's coming and how it's going to affect us. My biggest question I had with him was, okay, you're going to help generate some things, and you're going to sell it. He's a programmer. He knows how to write programs. But how do you put the feelings behind it? And he was telling me all about this merch theory and this and that, and I'm like, it went way over there. But that's going to be the biggest hang-up, is not being able to give that feedback whenever something is keyed in. So I feel like that's what's holding everybody up. So I'm in agreement about Google and other places. If they get their hands on it, they're going to know how to do it. I equated it to RoboCop. You're speeding down the road, all of a sudden you get pulled over, and that person is going to say, okay, ma'am, if it's a human, okay, ma'am, you've had a real bad day, I'm going to let you slide. But just remember, with AI, they're not going to let you slide. So that human emotion is where they're missing the opportunity right now. But they are working on that. They've got robots that look like actual humans now in England, and that are actually doing, going on dates, going to jobs, that kind of thing. When you've got your AI things that you're doing at the city, is it more defined for customer service base, or is it more for just to show, what your capabilities, what y'all can do there?
That is a great question, and it's a debate we've had. There was a big push to move faster, and we pushed back on it because of the fact that we did a study earlier this year in the city of Raleigh. We brought together a group of stakeholders, and we asked the question, okay, here is where AI could start to play, right, in different aspects of the city. What we wanted to determine is, what is your comfort level with AI, right? And we gave them several options, but the two big distinguishers were, do you want it to augment, or do you want it to automate? And by augment, we meant do some level of automation, but there's always a human in the mix to have last eyes on it to make the final decision. Or are you comfortable with full automation where The AI makes a decision and it moves without human intervention. And what we found consistently across the board, except for one or two areas, is that no one is comfortable with fully automated AI. For some of the reasons we talked about today, it is still, even though this has been worked on for decades, it's still in many ways immature. You may have noticed there are mistakes in my graphics. I intentionally left them in because I let AI generate it based on my prompt. My favorite one was this one. In case you didn't know, this is the final takeaway. Final takeaway. And so we struggle, and this is where we're going to struggle as a society, is because there is so much possibility here, and there are people who are pushing us and pushing us and pushing us and pushing us to move, but we have to move at the right pace. And that's the conversation you want to have, is what is the right pace for your organization, for your career, whatever that might be. But it is scary, some of the things they're doing. But again, I always like to tell people, it's electricity, it's ones and zeros. You can always unplug it. HAL is not a thing. HAL 9000 does not exist. You can always unplug it, but it can do a lot of damage if we're not careful, to your point. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, first of all, I want to apologize for my squeaky shoes. But they're really comfortable shoes. Thank you all so very much. I really appreciate your time today and your engagement. Thank you all. I'll turn it over to Nick. See, I can do this without a microphone. That's how you all see.
Thanks again, Marina Kelly, for that wonderful presentation. We really appreciate it today. First of all, I would like to acknowledge our board members. Would you all please stand today? Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. I would also like to thank our partners and our sponsors for being here today. This event is not about coming here, putting on a show, but it's about collaboration, and it's about finding ways to use AI as a line of defense and also as a catalyst for innovation and resilience. So let's challenge each other, ask the right questions, and work together and do the work, and to make Wilson a better place to live. Thank you. I'm sorry, James. Now we're going to have James Bidet to come up and our panelists.
Am I on? Ooh, I am. Hi, everybody. We wanted to thank you all for coming out today. Before I get into the panel, we have a group of really interesting people behind me that are going to answer some questions that I prepared about AI and generative AI specifically. And after, time permitting, if you all have any questions for them as well, we're going to give you all the chance to ask away. But first, let me introduce you to some of these fine panelists. On our far left here, we have James Amato, the innovation lead for Greenlight Community Broadband. For more than a decade, James has served the city of Wilson through Greenlight in the Gig East ecosystem, helping position the community as a broadband-enabled hub for innovation, entrepreneurship, and quality of place. His work has bridged technology, economic development, and community engagement, supporting initiatives that prepare Wilson for the opportunities of a digital and AI-driven future. As part of the Greenlight leadership team and a partner in building Gig East, James has championed efforts to connect people, ideas, and infrastructure to strengthen Wilson's role as North Carolina's gigabit city. Next, we have Donnell Best. He's an IT networking and cybersecurity student at Wilson Community College. His major is in information technology, and he looks forward to graduating in the spring. He's also looking forward to furthering his education upon graduation. He loves to travel and to experience new things and spend time with family and friends. To his right, we have Rob Bradish from Computer Central. His right, my right, somebody's right. Rob has over 30 years of experience in technology, beginning with mainframe systems in the 1980s and advancing to modern cybersecurity design. He started his career in data protection and recovery at EMC and Commvault, then moved into proactive cybersecurity at Fortinet, where he specialized in email security, endpoint protection, SD-WAN, and OT. Today, as part of Computer Central, Rob helps organizations across Virginia and the Carolinas implement secure, scalable, and innovative technology solutions. And last, but certainly not least, we have Bill O'Boyle from North State Consulting. He grew up in Wilson County and graduated from Barton. He's a successful entrepreneur as CEO of North State Consulting, which was founded in Raleigh. He relocated that business to Wilson to bring tech jobs to his hometown. Since then, he's formed North State Cyber Solutions, the Oak Room, and renovated multiple buildings in downtown Wilson. North State Consulting has won Best Place to Work and second place for Best Small Business by readers of the Wilson Times, and he was voted Best Boss by the same, and was also voted the Small Business Owner of the Year by the Wilson Chamber of Commerce. He was honored as a Main Street champion for his development work and commitment to downtown Wilson. With that in mind, as soon as I open my question here, we'll get to the first question. So our first question is going to be about, so we've all heard that AI might replace certain jobs, but what are some new jobs, careers, or entrepreneurial opportunities that you believe will be created by the rise of AI? Whoever wants to take it can go first. Otherwise, I'll popcorn.
Go ahead, I'll follow up with you. Let's make sure the mic is on.
Yep.
It is, right.
And if you all want, after you answer the question, I'll come grab the mic. I can pass it to the next person just to make it a little easier.
Do a lateral. First, I want to say thank you to you, James, and Dr. Hicks, and Ms. Weekly. Thank you so much. And President, thank you for such a great event today. On behalf of Greenlight, I'm honored to be here and shed some light. I think in terms of new jobs, I think back to what Marina talked about with respect to, the things that AI can do to enhance. So when I think about new jobs, I first think about the existing jobs in town and what this technology can provide all of us in this room in the workforce. How can it augment? How can it enhance? How can it improve the things that you do? Whether you run the Small Business Development Center here in town, or a Greenlight employee, or a healthcare provider, or an educator, there are aspects of these tools that can improve your practice of what you do. In terms of new, I think about the things that, Wilson can call, its own. The fiber workforce, agriculture. I think about ways that these tools can be used to support farmers. I think about these tools and how they can support entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship, even local industry. And so I think, again, back to something Marina said, I think when you combine this lightning fast broadband ecosystem that we're in with this adoption and openness and implementation of technologies like this, what did Michael Jordan say? I think he said the ceiling is the roof. So I'm going to use that analogy. The sky's the limit.
Hey everybody, I'm Donnell. I'm glad to be a part on today. That was an interesting take. I mentioned something about grocery stores and how, you need a cart to get your groceries, and how I believe that could potentially be AI, and how we could pay all with the card, your card, and like it'll be a AI thing on the cart, and then new jobs could be workers, like maybe manufacturing companies that will build the carts for us to use in the grocery stores.
I'm a little bit boring and more elemental, I think. I look at AI today, and I get these prompts. And I want to ask a question, just 'cause I'm curious. How many of you ever did that exercise in 3rd or 4th grade where you wrote a description of how to make a peanut butter sandwich for somebody else to read? You ever do something like that? That's what a prompt is. Okay, that's what we're doing is we're telling these computers how to make peanut butter sandwiches. They don't have hands. They don't have eyes. They've never tasted a peanut butter sandwich. So we have to give them a lot more information. I think as we go forward and we look at the types of things that we want computers to do, we're going to have to be very, very specific in our prompts, understand that we don't only just tell them what to do in our perspective, we have to tell it to do from the perspective of something that has no idea what it is we're asking them. I also think it's going to be very, very key. They're saying right now that prompt is going to change. Right now, prompts are based on telling it what to do. The new prompting technology that they're saying is around the corners. Tell us what it's going to look like in the end. Let the AI generate its own prompt for how to get there. Give them the details of what it's going to look like in the end. So I think there's some very, very interesting models when you look at this and say, okay, healthcare is going to use AI. Who's going to write it? Who's going to interface for it? I'm 65 years old. I'm not doing it, right? So a lot of young people like Donnell are going to come up. This is the things that they're going to do. They're going to be creating these types of interfaces for all these people. While I don't necessarily agree with Ms. Marina that jobs won't go away. I think some jobs are going to change. That's just the nature of the beast. But I think they're going to be replaced by different jobs. I think that's very, very exciting. And one of the things I find fascinating is if you go through the YouTube or whatever sources, look at how many people are creating neat stuff with AI today. Those are going to be jobs in the future. And those people are going to have the jobs because they know how to do it. So it's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, thanks. Well, we can go to the next question. I know you got a bunch of them. So.
Yeah. Okay. The next question we have here for our panelists are, what are some AI use cases from your line of work that you found to be exciting or promising?
So I look at AI as the concept of up-leveling. So everybody has a specific, a range of skills that you have. So the highest use of my brain is to create jobs and create businesses and build sales models and things like that. Things that don't necessarily need me to do are more administrative tasks, more things that other people in my organization can do. Every person in here has that skill. And so the more you can spend your time focusing on the highest use and best use of your time and your brain, those are the things that AI can eventually do. And so those are the things in any business or any role you should start considering, okay, how can we get rid of this task work that is just repetitive and not necessarily for the person of the skill set that's being used.
I'll pass this one as you go.
Okay. I would say, can you restate the question again for me?
Sure. So what are some AI use cases from your line of work that you found to be exciting or promising?
I would say when you need help, like maybe troubleshooting something, as far as if your laptop or computer isn't necessarily working and you don't know how to fix it, you could ask ChatGPT to give you the steps on how to fix it in a certain way. So that'll be what my statement.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to answer the question. I love where Bill went with respect to up-leveling. As an entrepreneur myself, I use some manner or series of tools every single day to do what I do. I find myself using tools to do the things that I'm not great at. I'm great at, big ideas and brainstorming and really getting to the bottom of, human-centered design and those types of things, but I'm terrible at scheduling appointments. I'm terrible at things that many of us might say, okay, that's a workflow problem. I use AI a ton to address workflow problems. And so I think the more, intelligent the tools get, I become more excited. Where can it make me better? where can it help me overcome the deficiencies I have in my practice.
Awesome. So, what is one myth or misconception about AI that you would want to debunk for a general audience, and why?
I would say that a lot of people that I've came across would say that it'll ruin our brains in a way, like make us less smart. And I think that'll only be possible if you allow it. If you continue doing your day-by-day things that you know how to do on your own without it, then it shouldn't be a problem. So, yeah.
I gotta start off with another question. Who's seen Terminator? It's a real worry. We all see it and we say, oh my gosh, the world's taking over and what's gonna happen next? You have to forgive me, I keep looking at my notes and I'll tell you why. I'm 65. I don't remember things anymore as well as I used to, so I wanna make sure I don't stumble over my own words, which I've been known to do. But the challenge I see, that's the misconception, is that AI is self-aware. AI is not self-aware. It's a bunch of scripts that get faster and faster and faster, drawing from a pool of data that gets larger and larger and larger. So it can almost come off as self-aware when it writes back to you. I was using AI, ChatGPT specifically, to answer these questions first and then created my own questions around it. I'm a scuba diver on the side. I was amazed that in one of the questions it said, should I format this for scuba divers? No. Has no pertinence. So getting AI to be more relevant in the overall approach is also going to be dependent on the prompts we give it. And I think understanding that while you may think it's aware, it's not. I don't think it'll ever really be aware. There's people in all the sci-fi places that it will be. It'll be able to process data faster. It'll be able to give you feedback faster. But isn't that what you do here? We go out, we look, we observe, we see things in the system, we gather from our eyes, our ears, our throats, and everything, and we use that to make assumptions and presumptions. AI is going to do the same thing. And it's exactly that reason that its perspective will sometimes be wrong, too.
I think it's definitely not scary. It's more exciting. There are endless amounts of companies all over the place in rural areas and big cities and everything in between that are someone in their role. Maybe they're a community college instructor who have figured out a really cool AI tool that can help other AI community college instructors. And they're out there building that, and they're going to get investment if it's good, and if it actually solves a problem, they're going to create jobs. They're going to do all of these things. And I think about, I was a teenager when AOL came out, and can we imagine in any way going back to where there wasn't an internet? That's not possible. So, and if we think about all of the billions of dollars, trillions of dollars of economic activity and jobs created as a result of the internet, it's the same concept with AI, and it's going to go just as fast, if not faster. And so it is something to embrace. And we talk about it's so important to have these kinds of conversations in places just like Wilson, more rural areas, because internet, like Greenlight, is part of the infrastructure. Now the conversation is not should we have an internet or not should have an internet, is can your utility infrastructure remain competitive with other communities? And so we've got to stay involved in the conversation with AI and make sure that everything that we're doing, we keep that involved. So, thanks.
I was just nodding vehemently that yes, it can, and yes, it will. The infrastructure, that is. My colleagues in the room may want to support me on that. I appreciate Bill's sentiments on that, and I think from an infrastructure standpoint, it's the best of all worlds moving forward. I think for me, just to add some color, it's not some mysterious, scary force. And it does reflect the value that you put into it, whether that's a metaphorical value or a literal value. It's going to give you more of what you give it. It suggested to you that it wanted to format something for scuba divers. I've gotten into the habit of saying, hey, I'm going to be speaking to X type of group today. Please recall my resume and why they asked me to do this to help me formulate my responses a little bit, more rationally, to give me a head start. And I think in that regard, it's more of a teammate or a thought partner or a buddy than it is a mysterious force that's out to get me.
All right. So then, what are some practical everyday steps people can take to protect their personal data and privacy when interacting with AI-driven platforms and services?
I would say watching what you click on, making sure that you really are reading it and not giving up any of your information, and making sure that if it can be protected in the way of like passwords, that is not 1, 2, 3, 4 or something easy, but something that is difficult, but something that you can remember.
This is one of those I'm going to let ChatGPT answer for you, because it gave you 7 really good bullet points. It's easy to read them and remember them. Be careful what you share. It's been going on for a long time. If you share too much information, people can use that to build from it. Adjust your privacy settings. As you get into these things more and more, you can determine what comes in, what comes out. You can determine how you share it. Strengthen your accounts. Not just strengthen your accounts, maybe change your names from being Rob@ to something a little bit less easy to determine, along with your passwords, not just not one, just the other. Watch for data collection traps, and we've all done this. We load some app, some game onto our phone. That game on your phone may be doing more than just letting you entertain. It may be collecting data. You have to be aware of that. You have to be looking at that and say, do I really need to play this game that much? And keep your devices and apps updated. This is one I wanted to make sure I remembered. Windows 10 goes end of life in 2 weeks. Now, Windows 10 will not stop working. So if you have Windows 10, don't run out and say, oh my gosh, it's going to stop working. Microsoft, however, will no longer be developing security updates or regular updates to Windows 10. I don't even care about regular updates. It works fine. Security updates, I am very concerned about. And we tell people all the time, if your biggest threat to your system today is security and phishware and all these fun things, you have to make some way of protecting yourself. So I'm very, very concerned about Windows 10 for that reason. And I hope you are too. And the last one on here, which of course went blank because my screen went blank, but I did want to point it out again, was limit your data footprints. I went out, I use a product called Keeper. Keeper tracks all my passwords, makes it easy for me to remember. So password wallet. I have 32 independent passwords. Do I really need them? It's one of the things I just recently cleaned up, knocked it down to 17. It's not, but how much of what you were saying, how much of your footprint do you want out there? And you have to be cognitive of that. And if you want to protect yourself, you have to limit ways that you're being exposed.
Thanks. A lot of what Rob was just saying, I mean, it makes sense. You know, at North State Cyber, I mean, we talk about just having a lot of things get spoofed. So you'd be amazed at how many threats and things like that can be eliminated or bypassed if something might look like it comes from me, might have my name on it, but you can click above it and see that it's actually a different email address. And that happens all the time. So I would caution people to be, if it doesn't look right, just take 2 seconds and click over that to make sure it's who you actually think it is.
I just said don't upload anything into an AI tool that you don't want made public, period. I'm also a big fan of, if you're going to use the free version of something, it's probably going to be more monitored than a paid subscription would be. It doesn't mean you're not going to be monitored if you don't, if you do buy the ChatGPT paid version. But I tend to think that the paid versions of things are a little more secure, they run a little faster, a little more fluidly. I would also say, to me, safety is more than just security, it's also integrity. So my call to action would be to read the responses you get back from the AI tools you're using. Make sure they're not hallucinating. And for those of us that, do copy and paste into emails and other documents, please do your best to edit them, not to leave footnotes and horizontal line breaks and, those things that ChatGPT and other tools will ask you about. Because it looks unprofessional. It challenges the integrity of the user, so don't fall into that trap.
So for my next question, and James, we can actually leave this one with you to start with. How can we foster a culture of critical thinking and skepticism when it comes to information generated by AI, especially in the face of increasingly realistic deepfakes and manipulated content?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big question, and I think this goes to, I mean, even the roots of faith. There are international congregations of churches and faith leaders talking about this right now. It's this idea of critical thinking and humanity, and I think for me it really starts with scrutinizing the results you get before you decide to leverage them in the world. If you ask a question or you do what we're suggesting and use AI as a thought partner, really take some time to think about whether the response that you got is a good one. Educate yourself. And then I think along the same lines is some of the advice we got on, password protection and looking at email links or web links before you click on them. Similarly, make sure you're reading your source material. Look at where the information you're getting is being sourced from. Trust those sources. If you can't on your own, ask a friend, ask a buddy. So those are some things that I would recommend.
I agree with that.
I also think you have to introduce a healthy dose of skepticism, because a lot of stuff we see is just, Josh back there is my partner in crime at work. Josh is a really nice guy. If somebody shows me a deep fake of Josh kicking a puppy, I really need to question whether that's real or not. Michael Rowe is all over the board right now because they have been putting Michael Rowe attached to Yeti in a means of collecting data from people. And he's going out and saying, I don't do it. It's not me. Looks good. Looks real good. But this deep fake technology, you have to introduce, ask the question, does it make sense? Is it too good to be real? Am I being triggered because of what I see or what the reality is behind it? And learn to ask the questions.
I actually wouldn't add much more than that. That's good.
Awesome. I do want to check in. How am I doing on time? About halfway through my questions, but I want to leave some time. Okay. So, what are some of the most pressing AI safety concerns you've heard from your communities or clients, and how are you addressing them?
I can address that well. So my company helps, some of our clients are AI software companies that are looking to go to market. And so we help them build the go-to-market strategies, get them new clients, all that good stuff. And so one of the our specialties is legal technology. So a lot of these software companies that are building AI tools around contracts and legal research and all of that. Unfortunately, what's happened in a lot of cases, and Maria touched on it, is a lawyer, an attorney, might get a little too comfortable with AI and submit something to a judge before it's properly vetted, or that AI might reference something that didn't actually exist. And these cause major, major problems. Attorneys are liable for the information they produce in front of a judge, and a client is paying them a tremendous amount of money to make sure that they're accurately representing the client. So there's a ton of discussion around that, and what's happening is there's more and more money being invested in all of these AI companies, but in some cases the technology is not caught up to the problems. So the problems that an attorney or pick any industry is trying to solve, the AI is just not quite there yet. So you have to be really, really careful, and I can see how in other industries, like anything highly regulated, banking, healthcare, accounting, these things, you can't kind of get lazy and just assume too much and trust too much.
I would say that in some way, everything that you would use it for, your privacy would be leaked, or they'll remember everything. And I would say just make sure that you are being aware of what you're asking it for and do. And also, if it's like on any type of audio, be sure to lock your app if you're that scared. That way, you don't have to worry about, I guess, it listening to your conversations.
I would just add, you know, where Greenlight is concerned and in our network, you know, I realize not everyone may be a customer, but we have the benefit of the virtue of local self-reliance, right? And so you have a team of people, a number of folks who are in this room right now that are just incredible at what they do, not just on the install, but on the monitoring, on the back end work, on all manner of what it takes to lift up a fiber optic infrastructure, a municipal broadband infrastructure. I mean, this in many respects, not to go too deep on plugging Greenlight or even the community college, but you think about the fiber optic tech program and the things that are happening in this community, in some respects, not only to protect it, but to educate a workforce, to be a center of excellence in many respects for the workforce who is charged with keeping it safe. And I think what that permits is, while, you know, OpenAI and Anthropic and many of these companies may be Silicon Valley based or based elsewhere, you still have the benefit in that local self-reliance of community values playing a role in how you get what you get and what you can do with that technology. So, yeah.
For this next one, Rob, I'd like you to answer first. But how should we think about the way that we work with AI, and how do you expect that to change in the future?
So this is, he actually asked me which one I like, and I took this one. The reason I took this, like I said, I went through ChatGPT. This is another one I'm going to let the ChatGPT answer because I thought it was a really neat answer. Right now, we mostly think of AI as a tool, something that helps automate tasks, summarize information, or speed up workflows. But the future will look more like a partnership. AI shift from being a passive assistant to being an active collaborator, as you stated. Adapting to our work styles and handling more complex processes. That doesn't mean humans step aside. It means our roles evolve towards what humans do best: strategy, creativity, ethics, and oversight. The real shift is moving from asking whether AI will replace us to asking how we can design work so humans and AI complement one another. How can we move better together? I thought that was a really good answer, so I'm not going to change it.
Thanks. I go back to up-leveling. Every business, even if you don't own a business, you're an individual contributor or a leader in an organization. There are things that you don't have to do. You know, your company, your employer, your employees, whatever they may be expecting and hoping and wanting you to use the highest capacity of your skill set. And so looking for ways to minimize the amount of time that we're just spending doing things that just don't require us, that could require people with other skill sets or AI is definitely a huge opportunity. For sure.
I agree with what they said. We should just utilize it to the best of our ability.
Nothing to add.
So then, looking ahead, what's a future application of AI that you personally find inspiring or interesting?
Yeah, I'm going to have to refer to my notes here a little bit more than I otherwise would, but I contemplated the ideology of how would this improve community health, the well-being of people, and, you know, think about the ways that AI could predict public health needs. I mean this apolitically, but, you know, healthcare has been on my mind personally. It's been all over the news. What's going to happen if such and such bill passes or if such and such bill doesn't pass? And I just think about the application of AI and what it could do to, you know, to continue to serve those who need it, and also to identify potential, you know, challenges to the social determinants of health in our community. In what ways could we identify a potential food desert in advance of a development? In what ways could we, you know, insert your potential problem? In what ways could AI help us get to the bottom of it 5 and 10 and 15 years before the problem rears its head? To me, that's the promise of application of AI within a smart city like Wilson.
I would just say ChatGPT or any tool that's similar to that, to be able to continue to ask it any questions that you may need in your day-by-day life.
So I'm from a family of teachers, and I am not a teacher, nor do I play one on TV. But I had 3 boys, And in the time I went to school in the 70s versus the time they went to school now, boys are woefully unprepared from high school. We know this. It's been written about over and over and over again. And some of the things I ask about why is what happened to the tuned education for kids. And I remember back in the 70s, some of you may remember something called SRA reading labs, where everybody went out and pulled out the reading card based on their last experience. It helped them, and everybody could grow in their reading at a skill proportional to them. When I look at AI, I think about adding that same kind of program to a teaching program across the board, from kindergarten all the way through high school, where we can start to see strengths and weaknesses, and we can build and tailor the educational experience to help somebody who may not do well in math not hate it. Maybe, in fact, make them a math lover over time. And to be able to build this, and not just through one class, throughout their educational history, help develop a path that'll help them grow to be the best people they can be. I think that's really exciting.
That's same.
All right. So if you could give someone just starting their education or career one piece of advice on how to prepare for a world shaped by AI, what would it be?
That's a great question. So most of our employees are early in their career, or they're transitioning from one career to a career in tech. And the number one thing that I try and, as far as AI related, is just learn it. You know, there's so many tools out there, and just like, you know, a lot of resumes I get have kind of standard, the GPA, they have this, you know, all those kinds of things, which are great. But also being able to say, you know, you have a specialty in AI, or you understand these specific tools related to our industry. So if someone were to give me a resume that said they had AI experience with Salesforce, this and this, you know, those would stand out big time. You know, those would get a lot of, you know, stand out much more towards than some of the standard resumes. So always learn all of the stuff, and a lot of times don't assume that whoever you're working for understands the stuff better than you do. You know, I don't. There's plenty of employees that I have that understand the tools they're using much better than I do. So if we go and you go and help educate your leadership and your bosses and your managers on the things that you can learn, and you're bringing ideas to the table, that's a great asset.
Totally agree. I mean, we're all finding going into our job, you're trained to be skeptical, be flexible. You know what? AI is just another tool. Skeptical about what it gives you, trust but verify, but be flexible, learn it, use it, because it can't hurt you to use it. How's that going to be a negative?
I agree with what they said, learn it so you can be able to use it.
Yeah, if you're not curious, get curious and learn how it can complement you and what you bring to the table.
All right. We're going to do the quickest rapid fire round imaginable. One sentence is all each of you get for this one. So for someone who is not a tech expert, what's a simple actionable step they can take this week to begin exploring and benefiting from AI in their personal life? One sentence.
Okay. I would say we all eat in here, so I would say, like, if you if you don't know how to like cook a certain thing, you can ask it for a simple recipe, and it'll be able to give you the recipe for dinner, lunch, or breakfast.
You can actually integrate it with your mail and have it do a synopsis of your day.
Just ask ChatGPT anything.
Yeah, more practically speaking, ask it how you can discover Wilson in a new and creative way this weekend.
Awesome. Now, we do have a little bit of time for some audience Q&A, so if any of you have any questions for our panel here, we'd love to field them.
So while y'all are thinking of a question, because I can't shut up. I was curious, you know, you go out and you look up a lot of resources. Who's using AI? What are they doing? And all sorts of data from the internet, but again, trust but verify. So I said, I want to go do something different. There is a local mortgage lawyer in this town who's customer of mine. He does some number. It doesn't matter what number he does. I'll say 30 million, just for the fun of it, all right? I asked him what percentage of his daily business was either a template or research, a repeatable process. 40%. That was his number. And he said he was being conservative. If I can, AI's biggest advantage, we talk about all those things, is giving you back time. That is the number one advantage of AI, is it does things faster for you so you get your time back. If he can take that 40% and reduce the time around doing that, and that 40% of $30 million can come back to him, what's the real value there? And that's everywhere. That's going to be healthcare. That's going to be, looking up statistics. It's going to be anywhere that's doing these kind of repeatable processes. That, to me, is the biggest feature of it. I've been stalling for somebody to ask a question. We can't be that good.
Any questions? We'll give you one more chance. Sure.
Hey, my name's Artavius Applewhite, and the question that's been on my brain is, this is my first semester doing cybersecurity and everything, and I'm liking it so far, but I kind of don't know which lane that I want to go into just yet, and I also want an internship. So where would y'all think I should go looking for that? Cause yeah, to be, I don't know, for an internship.
I would say utilize all your resources on campus, and I would say it's okay not to know. I still don't know exactly which lane I would want to go in, so I think it's okay to take your time and figure it out.
Are you doing what you started off in work? No. You doing what you started off in work? Kind of, sort of. I've had 6 different professions. So, and along the way, I fixed PCs. I went on and learned about storage, worked for EMC for a large number of years, moved over to Commvault as a backup recovery expert, was sitting down over a beer with somebody and said, the thing I hate about backup is it's always reactive. And how do you become proactive? So you need to come to work with me at Fortinet. So all of a sudden, because we're solving problems ahead of time. The first thing by all that is that don't look for one job for the rest of your life. It's going to change. Be open, be flexible, and understand it's going to change. And in cybersecurity, it's changing hourly. AI is a real fear for cybersecurity, so there's a lot of development there. And there's so many different places to go in it. Expose yourself to as many things as you can, and you'll find your path.
I would just add, you have the blessing of proximity. I mean, when you think about Wilson, you think about an absolute top-notch micropolitan tech ecosystem, for lack of a better phrase. But you're not too far from the Triangle, which is arguably a top 5, top 8 tech economy. So, I think in addition to these things, just stay abreast of what's going on out there. Meetup groups, to get yourself exposed. Job fairs, meetup groups, seminars here, seminars there. Certainly take advantage of every last resource the community college provides. But yeah, you could probably even use AI to harvest a lot of this information.
Well, you're doing it. So not every student at your stage would get up in front of people with a microphone and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I need some help. I don't know exactly where to go. So feel really good about that. On the cybersecurity, any technical side, it's good to just learn about a couple different paths. So there's the business side of any technology. How can more people use it, you can sell it, all that good stuff. Then there's the support side, where you might be building technology, you might be an engineer, or you might be helping people use it. So think about tech as business or the actual tech side of it. I'm happy to meet with you. After here, you're welcome to come to our office. I'll show you all that stuff, and if something looks interesting to you, we can keep talking about it.
For the 3 of you that have been out in the workforce for a while, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what do you think it would be?
I always look to solve problems that no one else wants to solve. So everybody, it's really easy to find the quickest path to the next thing. But if you're looking around and seeing, man, the person that's has the biggest hat, you know, the one that writes the checks. What problems are they trying to solve? I want to help solve those problems. And if you continually just look for those types of problems, it'll work out well for you.
I also find, most of you may not know what this is, build your Rolodex. Know who you know, keep in touch with them, send them Christmas cards, drop them a phone call every year or so just to say hi. Miss Tina back there I work with, that lady knows everybody in Wilson. It is frightening. I've never seen anybody with that kind of contact list in my life. And she can pick up phones. I said, you know, I'm thinking about insurance. She said, call so-and-so. Called so-and-so. She gave me a great insurance rate today. Your contacts, your Rolodex are not something that you learn for school. They're not something you learn for a few days. These are lifetime contacts, and maintain the best ones that you can. And also understand that sometimes some of them you want to get rid of. Keep it thin, keep it memorable.
Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking for me, it's don't be afraid to fail. Fail often and fail very, very fast, and then move on. Fail well. Yeah. Responsibly. Discern it, pray about it, whatever you do. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions? All right. If not, then what I'd like to do is have us give a round of applause to our panel. Thank you all for sharing your wisdom. Who am I passing to, by the way? Right back to Dr. Woods.
Just a great job with the panel. I know you all enjoyed that as much as I did. I got some great notes. So just in closing, to wrap up, I just want to remind everyone that here at the college, our mission is to serve our community with education and training that aligns with business and industry needs. So if there's something your organization needs, is looking for, please connect with us. As you know, we have a lot to offer. Again, I want to thank everyone today who made our event possible, from our keynote speaker to our great panelists to our sponsors and the WCC team. And also thanks to the participants. Thanks for everybody who came out, our face-to-face audience, and those listening in online. And we hope that we left you with something helpful today and that you had a great visit. And a couple of final things before we do the drawings. We do have a QR code for you to complete the evaluation of the event. We are all about continuous improvement. We want to make it even better next time for you. So please do that for us. And last but not least, we do have a few extra lunch boxes left over. So if you want to if you're still hungry, you want to grab a bite, you want an afternoon snack, please don't feel shy about getting another lunch box if you want one. And I guess now we're ready for the drawing. So without further ado.